All right, hello. We are in the opening scene with Back to the Future, and we're going to look at Hulk Hogan's birthday in here, and also potentially, I I don't really know how to explain it, but if you see my recent decodes with Ozzy Osbourne connecting to this thing, and really the true connection is Peyton Manning. Um, with the Denver Broncos here, and the whole thing, I believe this whole scene is really referencing back to the date 6/6 and the addition of 88 days on from 6/6, which takes us to 9/1, which I at the minute believe could be a potential date for the Hoover Dam. See the water gushing out of the coffee maker here, for the Hoover Dam to break. Okay, and maybe World War III to kick off, or something, definitely something big happening. Where do I start with this? Okay, let me get a swig of tea. So if you've seen those other decodes, you know the connection was Omaha with all this stuff. The Broncos, Peyton Manning plays for the Broncos, and his famous call is Omaha, and Omaha relates back to D-Day. And notice we have the D for the Denver Broncos here, so D-Day. D-Day is on the 6th of June, and if you jump through 88 days, will take you to the 1st of September. Okay, and here's our 88 on the clock here. Okay, so this was the connection. You know, we've got an alarm clock. This is a countdown clock right here. We've not quite on it on the shot, but this thing here is a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown clock. And we've talked about a whole bunch of stuff in here, but what we want to do is we want to talk about Hulk Hogan. So Hulk Hogan's birthday, let's put this thing on, is actually encoded in here. If this thing would come on. So his birthday is actually encoded in here. Okay. So let me explain. So this clock, I believe, is on 7:53, and there's a whole bunch of clocks that are on 7:53 as we go through this scene. And some aren't, some are, you know, some are close. Anyway, 7:53 is the time on this clock, as far as I'm aware. Okay. Now, if we simply change that to 24-hour, 7 becomes 19. Okay, so we've got 1953 right here. Okay, and then if we look over at this other clock here, okay, we're just going to look at roughly where the hands are. So the hour hand, even though it's still on 7, is actually very, very close to the number 8 here. Okay, and then the minute hand is on what would be the number 11. Okay, so we have a date here of 1953 and 8/11. Okay, now if we go to Hulk Hogan, okay, we can see that he's born on 8/11/1953. Right, now let's just look at his death now. Okay, so this is all tying in, I believe, tying Hulk Hogan in with Ozzy and Peyton Manning. And obviously there is for starters, if you've watched any of the 88 Finished and Porous decodes on Back to the Future and the Wizard of Oz, you'll know that the Back to the Future is absolutely loaded with references to the Wizard of Oz. Okay, the other decodes that I've been doing has been Ozzy Osbourne being the wizard, the Wizard of Oz. Okay, and where does the wizard return home to? He returns home to Omaha, Nebraska. Dorothy goes back to Kansas, but he goes to Omaha, Nebraska on his balloon. And so there's this this idea of coming home. Obviously, Omaha sounds a lot like home. Okay, so there's this idea of returning home, right? And a big connection to the Wizard of Oz through the Omaha thing and Ozzy Osbourne. And of course, if we think of the other Hulk, yeah, the Incredible Hulk, what color is the Incredible Hulk? Green. Okay, so we have this Matrix, Emerald City, green reference, right, which is the man-made version of nature. This is why that green always looks a bit odd. You know, if you looked at a natural green, it's a more unnatural green. You know, we get the thing with Superman and um, kryptonite and all this stuff, right? Stuff we've talked about many times before. But anyway, we've got this dude, yeah, with the yellow and the red on. Okay, now I don't know, but it seems like since early on in the start of the year, we've been talking about the gold and the red. Okay, the red and the gold, and you know, I don't think I've ever stopped to actually do just a dedicated video on that. But what is going on with that reference with the red and the gold is, again, this is Dorothy's way home. Okay, the red and the gold. She's got to follow the yellow brick road. The secret behind the curtain is revealed, and the connection is the ruby red slippers with the yellow brick road, and those two things were the thing that was always going to take her home. Let me explain why. I guess we should just let's do a picture. Okay, we don't need this chart, but let's just put just so I can explain what is going on with the symbolism. So if we do a yellow, and in fact, actually, we can be quite technical here. Look, let's do a sun. Okay, and then I'm going to do hang on, let's do this again, but I'm going to do a light grey over here. Okay, so I've got the sun, I've got the moon, and then we need, this just annoys the hell out of me, this thing. Then we'll do this. Yeah, we're still on that, and we've got the earth right here. Okay, let's show you this, right? So we can color this in with some, oh, this is good stuff, Dan. Bob Ross. Happy trees everywhere. So this is the earth, right? Okay, yeah, that looks really good. Okay, and then we've got the moon over here, and we've got the sun here, right? Now, this formation, okay, when all three are lined up, okay, when all three are lined up, what do we get? Yeah, we get the blood moon, which could be represented with this thing. Yeah, the cross represents balance, the blood moon, the red of the blood moon. Yeah, so you end up with this thing. Yeah, the St. George's cross. So this represents the blood moon. Okay, so this whole thing really is just colored in red. Okay, yeah, this is the red. Over here we've got the gold. Okay, this is the gold. Okay, together, when these things are in balance, i.e., you know, oh dear, what do we do? Here is the teeter-totter. Yeah, yeah, when these things are in balance, this is what we end up with, a blood moon. Okay, what does that mean? That means that the earth is in balance. Okay, all three of these things are in balance. Okay, we're not, you've noticed that with the way the current system is, with the thought process behind how planets and stars and everything works, You notice how the sun is forever getting more and more distant and from ever and ever increasingly bigger, you know, and now they've written into the equation that, you know, we're chasing after the sun through the or doing whatever, I don't know what we're doing. Okay. So, you know, this is what's going on for me anyway. It's the, you know, the red and the gold is referencing these two things being in balance. Pretty simple stuff. It obviously references a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It doesn't just come down to one thing. None of this decoding stuff comes down to just one thing. There's multiple layers of stuff you can decode out. I believe it's that way so that, you know, people in different realms, you know, within the world here have that encoding for their, you know, specific lives, you know. Okay, because like I'm talking about Hulk Hogan now, I don't really know anything about wrestling. Okay, this is not my, you know, Hulk Hogan is not my cup of tea. Okay, wrestling is not my cup of tea either. So I'm not going to actually talk about, you know, anything other than just his birth and his death date, you know. Anyway, so that's what we've got going on there. So what is important? Let's jump back to this scene now. What is important is what's behind here. Okay, you know, notice we've got the red over here and the gold clock here. You know, this is, you know, obviously it's red and blue, but there's the red on it and the gold here. But what I want to do is show you this, what's going on behind the coffee pot. Okay, with the coffee pot that's not there. Okay, so we've got his birthday there, right? Now his death date's a little more difficult to get, but we really want to focus in. Let me show you this clock behind here, because I thought before it might be a blood moon reference as well, you know, so this is kind of what takes me. Let's delete that stuff, and I can actually just use my back buttons here a little bit, and we'll just back. Now note, just let's note one thing here. This is what coming down here as a stream of water, and it's clear water. Okay, clear water. This is where Hulk dies, clear water. Okay. And notice the 88 here, yeah, the 88, Hulk Hogan HH 88 here as well. Okay, let's back up a bit more. And obviously August. Kind of interest as well. So we've got this clock now. This is real nice because what we've got is we've got red and yellow in here and orange in here, and the clock overall is kind of an orangey red color. Depends probably on your monitor setup or whatever what you're watching it on. But I kind of like that color red for a reference to the blood moon. You know, it's not just a completely dark red. It's kind of an, you know, slightly orangey red. Okay. Now what's interesting about this clock is you'll notice that the 12 o'clock hour is actually right here. Okay, and so what we've actually got is we've got the 12 and the 6, which have been rotated out of their usual place, and they are now occupying, okay, the 2 and the 8. So we've got some numbers here that are occurring, this numerology right here that is occurring with what we've got going on, okay, with this clock. And as I was just saying, you know, the balance is the blood moon. Notice the yellow on here, the red on here, the Hulk Hogan colors in the middle of this clock. Notice you combine those two, so if they're in balance you could say they're combined and you get the orange, yada yada yada. Okay, anyway, let's just take a look at these numbers now, because these become really interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Hulk Hogan's And let me show you something. Let's click this, add in this extra end date, and what you can see now is we have that numerology occurring from his birth to his death. Okay, we have that numerology in here. Yeah, we had the, if this thing would ever work, come on, we had the 12, yeah, and the 6 rotating through to the 2 and the 8 position. Okay, so we've got that numerology with the rotation of that clock. Okay, the straight up and down, yeah, is the, is when it's perfect, yeah, and that is then rotated around to that position. Okay, it's kind of interesting that they have that X on the 88 as well. They have a, well, it's not that X, but it's like a well, let's just look at it. Yeah, we have this X here as well. So that was that. Now, okay, on its own, you'd probably say, okay, I think you're reaching a bit there, Dan. I get it. The 12 and the 6 has moved to the 2 and the 8, so we've got that numerology. I get it, but that's reaching a bit, isn't it? Well, I'm going to fill you in with the rest of this now. So if you remember, we were really talking about Peyton Manning with this whole thing, with the Omaha call, okay, and that other decode that I've done 2 or 3 little decodes now tying all this together. Let's look at Peyton Manning's birthday through to, or back to, or between Peyton Manning's birthday and Hulk Hogan's birthday. Okay. Right. Okay. Interesting, isn't it? Right. 8262. Hang on a minute. 8262. Let's go back to what I just showed you here. Let's get rid of this crud a minute. I want to actually show you something. Look. So we had the full numerology for how that clock was rotated, right? But if we just unclick, so you've got 2 different ways of counting, with or without the end date included. So now what we have is 2628 drop 0, 2628, and that number jump with Peyton Manning was 8262. It's just reversed. And what's even more interesting, I guess it's kind of interesting, is this 22-year 227 days with that number jump that ties us back in with the 22nd of July for Aussie now. So you got these 3 individuals that are all tying together quite interestingly with this whole scene in Back to the Future. Okay, and that's pretty much the decode. Okay, his birth, his death, Peyton Manning's in here, and then his number jump, yeah, the number jump for his life, okay, is connected to his birth and Peyton Manning's birth right here. Okay, fascinating stuff in it. I'm gonna leave it there for this one. Hope you enjoyed that. That's going to enable me to get rid of about 3 or 4 tabs here out of all this lot here. And this is just the short list of the next few videos. I've got a huge, really interesting video for Madonna on this 8/20 potential death date coming up. And it's absolutely mental. Maybe I'll do it tonight. I've been really tired. I've been wanting to do it for the last 3 or 4 days, but I've just been so tired. I just haven't felt like sitting and just waffling on. And they're going to be quite long videos as well. Maybe I can shorten them up a bit, or just do a couple of little bits and then do another video, a couple of little bits. But anyway, that's that. Hulk Hogan, the HH right here, tying back into this time period that we're in right now, which we're in the I think we're in that 88-day. We're on the countdown now. We're in the 88-day countdown. Maybe that's what that clock's referencing to right here. You know, is that this is the, if you notice, in fact I think it's not on 88, but it's in the 9 still. Let's have a look at it while we're here. I'm going the wrong way. This thing, yes, so we're, you know, it's almost like both hands are going to align on 88 here, you know, as this comes down. I'm not quite sure if this clock even works like that, because they made a lot of props. You know, a lot of this stuff may be handmade specifically for the film, just like the you know, the speedometer on the DeLorean never went up high enough, so they had to redo all that, you know, and remake a whole new sort of insert there so that they could get the 88 miles an hour on the DeLorean, you know. But this is kind of interesting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Oh dear. And it does kind of put the 9, 1 at the top of things here, and the, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm waffling. Thanks for watching. Hoover down breaking. 9, 1 coming up. We'll see, won't we? Okay. Right. Bye.